and welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Lauren, and today I am going to be playing into something that I sort of started earlier, which is like, what exactly is X? So we did what's the deal with Jaeger recently. So now I'm doing what's in Red Bull. It's not exactly the same thing because this is more about like, you know, what even is this gasoline drink, as opposed to like the history of a liquor or liqueur. But I'm curious anyway. Red Bull goes into a lot of drinks, and I used to drink it some. Usually I would get those little Red Bull shots from like the gas station before a show in high school, and that was like my real intro to Red Bull, was like the little Red Bull shots that were horrible, but like just needed something quick and I didn't want to drink a whole Red Bull. So yeah, that was, and then I've had it a few times since then. I've like had it in like Irish trash cans and like I've had vodka Red Bull before. It's like I've drank it. I usually go with like Monster though, not gonna lie, if I'm gonna do a energy drink. But I'm curious, what is in Red Bull? It's a short video, so I figure let's just get going with it then.
Okay, so today I'm gonna try to make Red Bull. Now, this recipe is actually a little bit more interesting and definitely has a few quirks that I did not expect when I started to make this. However, I think it's pretty cool. There's definitely some weird ingredients in this, but when I was making it, it made me feel like part evil wizard and part alchemist. So
I really didn't realize that he was going to be making Red Bull like himself. That already has surprised me, but okay, looks like we're gonna have some fun. We got a muddler. What's it called? Ooh, the thing where the pump, like, no, where you have the pot and you smash stuff in it. Mortar and pestle. Ha! Okay, got it. I got there in the end. Don't tell me I didn't. You can't say I didn't even pause. I got there. I didn't have to look it up.
So this recipe is definitely really fun. And honestly, if you want to follow at home, it's actually not that hard to make this. So let's go ahead and get started. Like all good recipes, this recipe starts with citrus. And specifically, we're gonna need 4 oranges and 2 lemons. And even more specifically, we're gonna need the peels of those.
Oh,
now,
okay.
If you've got a peeler at home, your life's gonna be a lot easier, and I like to make my life harder. So I'm gonna be peeling these lemons and oranges with a knife. What should have taken me 3 minutes ended up taking me about 15, and those lost 13 minutes I'll never be getting back. Okay, so once I got all of the orange peels, what you need to do next is basically add 1 cup of sugar. Now this is for sweetness, but actually what we're doing here is making something what's known as an oleo saccharum, which definitely sounds like something in alchemy. Inside of the peels.
So far, I could in fact make this. I feel like there's going to be some stuff that happens pretty soon that I don't have the ingredients for at the moment, but if you want me to make some Red Bull, at some point I'll do that. Like I said, I would be very excited to do more, hey, I'll make this drink, or bartending stuff, or if I'm doing a how to drink video, it's like I'll do it with them. So if you want to see stuff like that, sure, I'll do it. People have been not super enthusiastic about that idea though. A few people have been like, oh yeah, that'd be cool, but mostly people are like,
of citrus are these tiny sacs of citrus oil, and these basically give the flavor of the orange. Now they're protected by these cell walls, and so what we're actually gonna do is the sugar's gonna kind of partially break down those cell walls, and the citrus oil is gonna leak out and collect into the sugar. If we coat all the peels in sugar and we let it go, we'll end up with something like this, which is the oleo saccharum. All of that syrup that you see collected down at the bottom is full of a citrus smell and taste.
So does that just
happen? I
happen?
let mine go overnight, and this is basically how much I collected. Okay. But if you let this go for longer, you can even extract more. However,
okay, so you just like let it sit. Okay.
However, you run into the risk of basically mold and other stuff getting in there. So, like all good things in life, you gotta take risks if you want the reward. Okay, so now that I have the oleo saccharum, it's gonna be the primary base of the flavoring, but there's other stuff in Red Bull that gives it its flavor. And most of that are some weird herbs. So starting with ginger, which is not weird, I'm gonna add ginseng, and I'm gonna add some licorice root. Now the licorice root I think might be optional. I'm not really sure. So if you make it, maybe try to omit it and see how it comes out. I'll put all the ingredient amounts that I used down in the description down below. Now these ingredients definitely look like they could be used in a spell. All right, now that I've got the witchy part of this recipe done, it's time to move on to the sciencey part. And for that, we're gonna actually need some caffeine and something known as taurine. These are both found in Red Bull, and Caffeine, obviously, you're probably familiar with. The amount of Red Bull that I'm making is about 4 cans worth, so I'm gonna be adding the equivalent of about 400 milligrams of caffeine to my Red Bull recipe.
Okay.
Now, I really should be using gloves here, but thankfully this isn't a large amount of caffeine, but definitely best practices are to use gloves, especially because caffeine is absorbed through the skin.
So he's going, I was like, you can get some jitters, huh, baby? Maybe I need to get some caffeine pills. Because I did not know that caffeine could be absorbed through the skin. And I have said multiple times, I need a way to just inject the caffeine right into my brain. So it could be fun to just like have it on and just like hold it.
The next thing I'm going to add is taurine, which from what I can research doesn't really do anything, at least clinically hasn't been proven to do anything. However, it is the primary component of bile, so maybe that's what gives Red Bull its unique taste. So I'm going to add the equivalent amount that you'd find in a can of Red Bull, which is about 1 gram per can, so I'm adding 4 grams of taurine to a plate, and I'm going to add that in later. Next, it's time to actually make the tea and Red Bull. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is heat up 2 cups of water, and then I'm gonna add in the ginseng, licorice root, and ginger, and I'm gonna let that boil for a little bit. And then I'm going to add in the citrus peels. And that's partially for the flavor, but also because I just really wanna collect all of that syrup that was remaining on there. I'm gonna let this boil for about 4 minutes total. And then at that point, I'm actually gonna use the same sieve that I used to actually strain the oleosaccharum, just to, again, rinse off any possible sugar syrup that was left on the sieve. Now, collected down below, we're almost done with the Red Bull syrup. There's just a few more.
It does look Red Bull-y. Like, that does, in fact, look like what Red Bull looks like. So, I mean, already solid.
Things that I need to add. First, I'm going to need to add some lemon juice. The fresh lemon juice is a different flavor than the oleosaccharum, which is kind of more of like an orange candy flavor. The lemon juice here is really going to add citric acid and make it sour. And I always find that Red Bulls, they're quite sour. So I added the juice of 2 lemons to the syrup. Then we can add the powdered taurine.
I do need to get one of those kinds of juicers, because like the kind that I have is one like you cut it and then you squeeze. Like it's got the hinge. That's the kind of juicer I have. So I'd like to have one of those, like push.
And caffeine to the syrup. Give this a really good mix, and then we're gonna actually just let this cool down. So I just transferred it to a mason jar and let it cool in the fridge for a few hours, at which point we can add the last thing that we find in Red Bull, which is B vitamins. Now there's just kind of a bevy of B vitamins in Red Bull. Again, it's not really clear if this does anything, especially at the levels that we're getting here. However, I'm really trying to recreate Red Bull here. So basically just added 3 doses of a B vitamin complex to this, gave this a mix, and then it's actually time to make the Red Bull. So to do this, all I gotta do is pour off about 1/4 of the syrup and then add in some seltzer water and give that a light mix, and boom, here's the Red Bull. Now, how does it taste?
It doesn't look quite the same. It looks a little lighter. And I wonder if that's like because it was like if it changes color when cooled sufficiently, or I don't know.
All right, so I finished the recipe and now it's time for a taste test. So I have the original Red Bull here in a glass, and then I have basically my version. Now, obviously there's a difference in appearance, and I think that has to do with the fact that they're using clarification here. If, for example, I maybe added a little bit of gelatin to this and then strained it off, I might get something a little closer to this. And there are techniques that come from beer making to basically clean up cloudy stuff like this and turn it more into like this. But for me, I'm okay with this color, and I think it looks
as long as it's just, cosmetic, right? Because like things can look really different but still taste exactly the same. So we're gonna assume that that's where he's going with it.
Okay, so now the main question is, how does it taste? So first, let me just taste the Red Bull to remind myself, because it's been a while. That's Red Bull. Very sweet, very sour, and it's got like a medicinal taste to it. Now let's try the homemade Red Bull. Honestly, it's pretty good. It doesn't taste exactly like Red Bull. I would say that there's almost like more of an apple juice flavor with this, so maybe they've added something like malic acid to it to make it sour. But this is pretty close. This almost tastes a little bit closer to a like emergency tablet, if any of you guys have ever had that.
Oh,
like,
those are actually better. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's the difference in like how long with the oranges and stuff, because that could do it. Because if it's the emergency tablet, those are a little bit more orangey. So like if they're not using real oranges in Red Bull, that could change. If it's more chemical, I mean, that could change the flavor, and it would probably make this thing taste better.
Those seltzer tablets, it tastes kind of similar to that, but it's not that different, honestly. There's definitely some crossover between these two flavors. Now, that being said, if you're gonna make yourself an energy drink, instead of having a Red Bull, which is not everybody's cup of tea, why don't you make one that is basically the same thing and is what you want? So if you want to make this a little bit different and add some strawberries to it or whatever, you can make your own. Now you know how to make an energy drink.
I will say it is interesting though to like watch a thing that it's about like it's like the guy's tasting it, but I have absolutely no way of tasting it. I have a lot of that stuff. I don't have any seltzer right now, and I don't feel like going to the grocery store because I'm lazy. But maybe one day I will make some. Because we do have oranges and lemons in the house at the moment. But all right, that is interesting.
All right, that's it for this week. I hope to see you guys again soon, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Okay. Oh. I hope oat milk isn't bad for me. I like oat milk. Anyway, okay, so yeah, that was, like I said, it was a shorter video, and I did think maybe he would throw in some stuff about the history, but then I realized it's like a 6.5-minute video, so that was probably never gonna happen. Still, I thought that was interesting. I hope that you all also found it interesting. If you want to see more stuff like that, if you want to see more stuff from Flavor Lab, because I think it sounds like he does a lot more stuff with actual booze and alcohol and stuff too. So that could be fun for me. But like, I'm just checking out his channel really quick. There's like mead and stuff. So yeah. If you want me to watch more stuff from Flavor Lab, go ahead and let me know. And you can do that by liking the video. You can also do that by leaving a comment or subscribing to the channel. If you don't want more stuff from him specifically, but you still want to help the channel out a little bit, you can go over to the join button down there, become a channel member. You do get early access to some things. There's some exclusive videos as channel members. You can also just sometimes just like, it helps us out. Also, we do shout outs sometimes. So let's just shout out some members really quick. Thanks to Pterodactylus. Thanks to Joe Favell. I appreciate y'all watching regularly, and you've been members for a long time. So we really, really appreciate it. It really does help us out. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.